to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion, it's gotta go.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Atheist Experience. I am your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Tracy Harris.
Hello.
Today is Sunday, October 27th, 2013. We're a live call-in public access television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. You can see us with live streaming TV at ustream.tv. You can check out the official Atheist Experience website at www.atheist-experience.com, and you can provide feedback by checking out the blog, freethoughtblogs.com/AXP, or you can email us at tv@atheist-community.org. If you enjoy the show, you should check out our two Alive and Kicking podcasts, The Nonprofits and Godless Bitches. I understand you had a special episode last week, which I'll ask you about in a minute, I guess.
Oh, that's fine.
And let's see, you can find links from the Atheist Experience website. And as always, the cast and crew of the Atheist Experience will be going to Threadgills at 301 West Riverside Drive, arriving at around 6 p.m. Now, I hear there's some kind of event going on there, and it may be a little hard to get seating all together. So basically, it's going to be first come, first served, and maybe see you there. How was the San Antonio thing?
It was good. I'm not sure if we're recording that as a podcast or if it was just a presentation. So that's why I don't know. I mean, it might be. I guess I should have asked.
You did a full-length episode in front of a live audience, right?
Well, I mean, we talked. We talked a little bit for an introduction, and then in San Antonio, and then we took audience questions, which turned into a real audience participation segment that was great. I mean, it was a really good group.
Cool.
Yeah, enjoyed it a lot. So we had a really fun time. San Antonio has a good group of people.
Great.
Yeah.
So what else is on your mind today?
Well, one of the last recorded episodes we did of Godless Bitches was another talk with Rob Poole, who we had on, talking about the prayer in psychiatry, in secular treatment and practice, and how there's a lot of debate happening in the UK about that. And I want to stress to people that this is not just an issue isolated to secular psychiatric treatment in the UK. This is actually stuff that is going on currently all over the place. And so you need to start looking out for this. They are inserting spiritual care and spiritual treatment and even spiritual diagnoses into regular medical practice and into all kinds of things. And it's not just limited anymore to Christian therapy or Christian-owned hospitals, which, by the way, are increasing in percentage of hospitals currently. So there's more and more hospitals that are starting to be affiliated with churches or owned by churches, and you're seeing a decline in secular hospitals. This is important because hospitals that are religiously affiliated in that way can tailor their treatments. Sometimes we've seen people that maybe didn't get a decent quality of care at some Catholic hospitals in other countries, and I know there have been some issues reported elsewhere, and so this is a concern. I mean, the more that the hospitals around you start to become religiously affiliated, the more we're going to have to start looking at the idea of maybe not allowing them to dictate doctrinal medical care, doctrinally specific. If it's one hospital and you have several others within the same range, and this is fine, they want to have their religious privilege or whatever in that situation, maybe that was okay because you have other options available. But if they're going to start purchasing up all the hospitals, then there's going to be a conflict here, because if they don't want to give, if their primary consideration is the religious doctrine and not the patient care, we have a problem.
Right. We've already seen, or for a number of years running, there have been cases popping up here and there of pharmacists who took conscience clauses, was it?
Yes.
Where they refused to give somebody their prescribed birth control, for instance.
And we talked about this on Godless Bitches. One of the things that was interesting to me is that one of the original reasons that I contacted Rob Poole was to ask him about the ethics of that question, because he had published on ethics in medical health care, and then he published specifically on religious boundaries and ethics, and he also holds a position where he is tasked with taking ethical reports or ethical problem reports of other therapists that are in practicing. So he is somebody that can speak to ethics. And at the time I contacted him, he was just, absolutely no, there should not be a religious edict that allows you to not make the patient primary, should be the primary consideration in any sort of care. And it should come second to everything. And when we talked about it on Godless Bitches, this is some years later, and he said that they actually had taken, I guess, a vote among pharmacists there in the UK who said that no, they felt like they wanted to have primary patient care as the primary consideration. I mean, the patient care was primary consideration, and they didn't feel that the religious exemption was a good thing, and yet it was still legislated so that now they also have that same exemption there. And this is what I'm trying, I think, to let people know, is that this is encroaching, like, more and more and more. You're going to start seeing these. We've seen, clinics, for example, women's healthcare clinics go into decline if they offer particular services for reproductive services. And what happens is it becomes harder and harder to find these clinics, so that even if you have been, even if your right to access those services has been identified as a protected right by the Supreme Court of the United States, there are still these subversive laws that go into effect that then eliminate your capacity to go and get those services, so that what ultimately happens is that you have a right with no teeth whatsoever, that on the books says you can do this, but your capacity is completely stripped or so difficult to access that you cannot exercise that right. So they are undermining rights here. They're saying, we don't care if it is your right, we're going to make sure you can't do it anyway. And sometimes they're successful and sometimes they're not. But as the churches begin buying more hospitals, as the pharmacists begin making more exemptions, a lot of this stuff is going to have huge impacts on your reproductive care and what you can access, what you're allowed to have. If they want to start making all hospitals into religious hospitals, then they're going to have to start giving up that doctrinal first line, patient care second line concept. So that was something that I wanted to talk about a little bit. One of the things that came up to me was that somebody sent a note. They had heard the interview with Rob Poole, and they said, I wanted to bring to your attention that nursing in the U.S. has a diagnosis of spiritual distress. And so they have something that's classified as spiritual distress. And the best that I can discern, it seems to be any kind of a negative life event that would impact you across many levels of your being. So that it might cause you distress in your family life, it might cause you some kind of depression, it might actually have physical symptoms that are brought on by the stress, like you're just overall impacted by this negative thing. And it could be even something like losing a limb, but it also can be things like losing your faith. And while we do hear from people who lose their faith and undergo a lot of distress as a result of that in many areas of their life, we also hear from people who lose their faith and it's the best thing that ever happened to them, and they're extremely excited and they're happy and this is great. And so it's very important for when you're going to take something like this and you're going to classify loss of faith in there,
Well, I can see that they're setting up some kind of circular reasoning thing because people make the claim that you need Christianity to be happy, and as proof of that, they show that these specific people are becoming depressed. But one of the measurements of becoming depressed is that you're losing your faith,
Right.
And so, it's just kind of self-fulfilling to assume that way.
Right, and so it becomes important to consider the differences in the people who do suffer distress over loss of faith and the people who don't. Because some people lose their faith and they don't have any problem with it. And so just classifying everyone who loses their faith as red flag, you're going to have all these horrible, psychological responses to this. It's like, well, no, some people do, some people don't, and we have to identify what is different about those people. But the thing that I just wanted to hit on the nursing issue here in the U.S. is that they have a little note here that says underneath therapeutic interventions, they have pray, if requested, pray with patient. This provides a sense of connectedness to others. This is riddled with all the same problems we talked about when Rob Poole talked on the show. I mean,
Right.
all the same problems. What happens if a nurse is Muslim and someone wants to pray to Jesus? Is that nurse required to do that? Would somebody be required as part of a condition of their employment to pray to a God that they consider to be, idolatrous or blasphemous to pray to? Would they have to do that? In the psychiatric discussions, they were saying it's only if they're the same religion, if you're on the same page with religion, then you can offer this. And if they have something like that in the nursing, then my question is, so what you're saying is that a nurse can provide particular quality of care to one patient and can deny it to other based on religious discrimination, right? I mean, you're basically saying, I will only provide this prayer service to other Muslims, or I will only provide it to other Christians that are like me, but I'm not going to pray with, somebody who doesn't believe exactly what I do. So now you're denying this sense of connectedness that is required for treatment to any patient who doesn't have a similar faith, right? What about somebody who just has objections overall, somebody of no faith who just thinks this is all objectionable? Is that person going to have to do that as a condition of employment? Are they going to have to practice this religious ritual with a patient?
Are they basing this claim on any kind of medical study? I mean, that praying with patients provides a sense of connectedness with them and this is beneficial somehow?
Believe me, it is.
I suspect not.
It is so much trying to define it, okay? But as I started to read about it in the nursing diagnostic thing, what I started to realize was, wow, this sounds a lot like religious trauma syndrome. And religious trauma syndrome is not really classified yet, as far as I'm aware. But there are people that are working on getting this described and getting it promoted as something that needs to be addressed. And certainly, if our email is any indication, there are people who are traumatized by leaving their religion. And I tend to agree when they're discussing religious trauma syndrome and trying to figure it out, in the articles and the research that have been done on it so far, seem to align with the mail that we get, which is that when you get heavily indoctrinated, which I talked about last time I was on, and if you just want to go back and reference that, I talk about all of the things that religions that indoctrinate heavily and are authoritarian do to people in order to make leaving as difficult as possible. What they want to do is force you to stay and make going away a very, very difficult thing. And they are highly successful in doing that. They make it extremely difficult for people to leave. And so when you leave, you sometimes have to leave your family behind. You sometimes have to give up all your social connections. You can't work anymore where you wanted to work. You have to give up everything in order to continue on. And sometimes you have to live in a community of people who now treat you differently and shun you. You have to, or you move somewhere and you're completely isolated now and you have no community. And so people suffer sometimes when they walk away from religion. In the same way that you would suffer if you were, trying to get off heroin, I suppose. You would go through like horrible withdrawal, and it would be definitely correct to say that giving up heroin, people have this horrible reaction to stopping, heroin once they're addicted to heroin. But that doesn't mean that leaving is a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that being on heroin to deal with your world is necessarily best. It just means that it's, nobody is saying that it's untrue that there are people who suffer from loss of faith, or suffer when they lose their faith. And when they have to walk away from those things and confront these people and confront their communities and, come out with something that they know is not going to be taken well, excuse me. But the question has to be raised about, we need to do more than just say, oh, you suffer these ill consequences. We have to say, well, this is why you're suffering these ill consequences. You can get over this, and you can learn to exist in a world without this oppressive religious system that you're trying to break away from.
Well, it's like George Bernard Shaw said, the fact that a believer is happier than a skeptic is no more to the point than the fact that a drunken man is happier than a sober one.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that, I think there may, I don't know, I'm not convinced that, it's an individual thing. Whether or not you're happy is an individual thing. I understand what you're saying, and yes, that's cute. It's a funny quote.
Yeah, I always like that one.
And it is appropriate to this. But I just want to kind of let people be aware that we get letters as well. In fact, we just got one recently from somebody who reached out for counseling, and they received a lot of really intrusive religious stuff from their counselor that was not a Christian counselor. And they also tried to check themselves into a hospital because they were concerned and having suicidal thoughts, and they thought it would be best for themselves if they went in and checked themselves in. And when they did, then there was some question came up about religion or church or something, and they said, I'm an atheist. And they said the nurse's reaction was sort of like, oh, maybe that's why you're having this suicidal problem. And
great.
she was just like, I just didn't need to hear that, and I didn't need to get some lecture from the religious nurse at the time, because there are already people in secular healthcare and secular mental health care that are crossing these boundaries in a way that is not appropriate already, and giving them, it's not really giving them license to cross the boundary, because they are putting these things in place, and technically they are saying things like, only if you're asked can you pray with a patient. Well, when it was don't do it, they did it anyway. And now that you're saying, well, you can do it if you're asked, I have to wonder, are some people just going to take that as license? Or are some people going to do what they can to get asked, or to suggest things, or try? And you cannot encourage people to be religiously intrusive in their secular jobs, because they're already intrusive and they don't understand it. They do not understand boundaries already when it comes to their religion. And so just trying to bring those lines closer and closer in is a very bad idea. And I just want people to start being aware that you're going to start hearing the term spiritual more and more in terms of healthcare and in terms of counseling and treatment, religious assessments and spiritual assessments, things like that. It's coming. So be on the lookout for it. Know that it's heading your way. Come into a hospital or a counseling center near you in your secular community. And just don't let it surprise you, And if you don't like it, then you better let somebody know, because I'm trying to let people know. And I think that's pretty much just what my rant was for today.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. We're going to start with a repeat caller, Seth in Seattle. Last time Linnea and I talked to him. Are you there, Seth?
I sure am.
What's up?
Hi. I'm sitting in my car. That's what's up.
Okay.
All right. So, can I start talking?
Oh, yeah, you're on the air?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, just to kind of review for the callers who maybe are not callers, but listeners who may not be sure what's going on. Linnea gave me this challenge, and I have the time stamps if anybody wants to check. She made up this worldview or scenario in which she said, and this is Linnea saying this, I created the universe by traveling back in time. That was timestamp 1920. This is episode 834. When I asked for proof that she can, she said, I don't need to. That was timestamp 1932.
Also, I'd like to mention that she said that she had also gone back in time and arranged things so that you would call back. And so she was making the prediction that you'd call back. And her prediction has now come true.
Which is a little bit
That
eerie.
is true.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, it's amazing if you didn't believe her claim. But
Right, well, yeah.
I expected it.
But I mean, I know, yeah.
Right. And my answer will be more complete. I have, if I can, I wrote this all down, so if I can just rattle it off, it would probably be easiest for you guys, because then you can just respond to the whole thing. So.
Sure.
Okay, but as a repeat caller, I've got a policy of holding you to 10 minutes. So.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Then she said, God cannot lie, timestamp 2030. That's what I said. She said in response, I'm not God, I'm myself, so I can lie. And then my question for her was, what confidence do I have that your claims on the nature of the universe are authoritative? And that's when Renee and Russell both said, that's our question for Christianity.
Yep.
Well, I looked through the Bible. There are a few instances in the Bible where miracles of a similar nature to time travel occur. I couldn't find one of actual time travel. Joshua 10, Joshua asks God to make the sun stand still, and God does so. 2 Kings 20, Hezekiah asks for a sign that he will live for 15 years more. The shadow, which I think most commentators agree refers to a sundial, is moved backwards. And in Acts 8, Philip the evangelist is taken away by the Holy Spirit and is transported a distance that I figured out was about 20 miles. So, in principle, I think time travel is possible because God's omnipotent. My response to her would depend on whether she is claiming she built a time machine or whether God miraculously transported her. Recalling C.S. Lewis's quote that miracles are not contradictions or outrages against nature, but nature by itself cannot produce them, I would say that if she says it was by a time machine, I would answer it was impossible under our current understanding of physics. So she's simply not telling the truth.
Yeah, but you don't care about our current... Wait a minute. You don't care about our current understanding of physics if you believe stuff in the Bible.
No, I do care about the current understanding of physics, and I'll address that particular point at the end. A human being acting under the normal operations of nature could not time travel because of this. If she wants to claim it was miraculous, then she runs into the problem that both she and God are claiming to have created the world. But she admitted she can lie while God cannot.
Right.
Now, a distinction at this point needs to be made. There are two different claims that usually go on when atheists argue against a Christian interpretation of science. They are either claiming that Christianity is false because it claims miracles happen and atheists claim miracles cannot happen. Or they ask how a Christian reconciles his belief in miracles with his belief in the uniformity of nature. I want to point out that these are two different claims. I agree that if I'm going to adhere to Christianity and the presupposition that nature is uniform, I have some philosophy of science of homework to do. But this is a different question entirely than responding to the claim that Christianity is false based upon its miracle claims. Now, according to the law of the excluded middle, a statement is either true or it is not. The statement Christianity is true or false. If it is, miracles can't be used as evidence against it because clearly God is capable of performing them. So the only possible scenario in which miracles can be used as evidence against Christianity is if it's not true. So unless Christianity is true, miracle claims in the Bible are evidence that it's not true. Shortening this a bit, unless Christianity is true, it's not true. That's a pretty trivial claim for atheists to be making concerning miracles. I'm done.
I'm not sure I got your point there.
Well, I would like to say, first of all, Christianity is not a claim. It's a huge set of a lot of claims. And so it is possible that, quote, Christianity can be true and false because there's a number of claims that are wrapped up under that label Christianity.
But one of the things that's claimed by Christians is that the entire system, the whole Christian worldview, is true as a unit.
Okay, but that could be, be wrong.
There are some people who self-label Christian who will tell you that parts of the Bible they simply reject and they think that that's just error and blah, blah, blah. So I don't see Christianity as like a uniform thing. And I don't see all Christians agreeing that all claims that are tied to Christian label are correct.
Well, one of the things that you'll have to do is you'll have to deal with the version of Christianity that I adhere to. I adhere to normal, biblical, orthodox, historical Christianity.
There's no normal. I've talked to too many people who think that their version of Christianity is normal, and it is. I've never talked to two Christians who believe the same thing. Never.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, you are asking like whether something is a disproof of Christianity. When we talked to you last time, the only point that we really brought up is that we have no reason to accept the stuff as true, to accept Christianity as true. That was the point that Linnea was making when she said she went back in time and you have no proof that she didn't.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's on equal footing. There's there's billions of possible claims that you could be making about the origin of the universe. You've chosen to settle on a particular one, and not just Christianity, but as Tracy is saying, whatever particular franchise of Christianity you happen to follow.
And your personal tweaks to it. So yeah, but I guess my point is, I talked to Russell a little bit about this before the show, and I'd like to talk to you about it. When I think of the word true, and I'm assessing a claim as true or false, what I'm doing is I'm saying, does this correspond to reality? Would you?
Right.
Does that seem fair?
I think that's true as far as it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I told you that I've got this mug in my hand, and you look at the screen, you probably can't see a screen, but I'm holding up a mug in my hand, that would be then how you would assess that as true. You would say, well, I can see the mug in your hand. You've said there's a mug in your hand. The claim appears to align with reality, and I would assess that as true. If I'm holding up both hands and they're empty and I'm doing jazz hands and I'm saying I've got a mug in my hand, it would not seem to be a true statement. It would seem to be a false statement. And so,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's basic, and there might be weird things where it doesn't apply or something that I just, we're not talking about right now, but that's what I talk about. When I mean something's true, that's what I'm talking about. And when somebody tells me they believe a thing, what they're telling me is that they have assessed this as true. So they have examined this, and they have come to a conclusion that it does align with reality. My problem with the claim God exists is that I don't know what reality I'm examining.
The one you live in.
Well, I mean, but I can't, what God are we examining here? And how are we examining it?
The one that's described, if you're looking for a definition of God.
No, I'm looking for the God in reality that it corresponds to the God that you're talking about.
The God I'm talking about is the God of the Bible.
Okay, but in reality, the Bible is talking about a God. I'm saying, where is that God so that I can assess these Bible claims, so that I can assess your claim, that I can assess whatever claims about God. I have to see the God to see if it aligns with the claim. Where do I do that?
How do you know that he exists? Is
that would be the whole point of the show, yeah.
Well, it depends. How you assess something is true depends on the standard that you're using to assess it. If you're just, for example, if you're a rationalist and you say that I only believe what reason tells me.
Well, Seth,
wait, let him go. Go ahead, Seth.
If you're a rationalist and you say, I only believe what reason tells me, there are certain things that even starting off could not possibly be true in your worldview. So if somebody wants to claim that spirits exist, but you're a rationalist and you say, well, I can't, I'm not sure I trust my sense perception. The one thing I know is that reason is absolutely true.
We never said that.
Well, I guess he's just saying somebody could.
No, there's a difference between judging something as absolutely definitely true and choosing to believe something.
Okay.
I mean, spirits could exist. All we're saying, and the rationalist point of view, as you put it, doesn't rule out the possibility that there are spirits. It just says, "Give me a reason, or I'm not ready to assume that it's true."
Yeah, or let's just say, here's an example. Let's say somebody tells me they can talk to spirits. They talk to the dead. All right, they're telling me they can talk to the spirits of the dead, and I tell them I can't assess that claim. Because I can't talk to the spirits of the dead, and I can't see the spirits of the dead, and I don't even know how to get in touch with them to check with them to see if they're talking to you, right? So I don't have any means of assessing that claim, so I can't call it true, because there is no hand with a mug that I can look at and say, oh yeah, this is what you're talking about, and it looks like it's true. It doesn't, it corresponds.
Right. So, you say, well, I can't see those spirits, and I can't assess them as whether they're true. Well, you're revealing what some of the presuppositions of your worldview are. You're saying I can't see it, so it can't be true.
No, what I'm saying is there's got to be something there for me to compare to the claim. There's got to be some reality for me to compare to the claim in order to say, oh, the claim matches reality. And if there aren't any spirits that can be examined, right, if there are no spirits to examine, I'm open to examining them, but I don't see how I can. I can't access these spirits. So how do I make a judgment of true on a claim that she's talking to them? And even if she
if that's your standard by which you're going to judge something as true, I don't think you can judge anything.
Seth, wait a minute, Seth.
Either, because you said you can't see it. You can't see the laws of logic either.
We talked about this earlier. Not me and you, but me and Russell. Okay. Here's an iPad, right? Is this iPad open? Oh, you can't see it. Okay, I'm showing a little iPad mini, and I've got it wide open on the screen. And I'm asking the people, is this thing open? And I would say that most people would say, yes, it's open. They're looking at this thing open, right?
Right.
Now, I'm putting that away. Now, in the absence of anything that opens or closes, can you demonstrate to me an open?
You might have to rephrase the question. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Can you show me an open?
Can I tell you an open?
No, can you show me an open? Can you demonstrate an open without demonstrating a thing that opens?
Well, open is just, the way you're using it's an adjective. You don't have a noun to apply it to.
Right, but is there such thing as open? There is such a thing as open, but I cannot show you an open because it applies to whatever you're applying it to, right?
Right, so you're saying you can't, if you can't see it, it's not true. Again, you
well,
can't see the law.
No. I'm saying
We're
open is an
that.
attribute, right? Open is an attribute of things that open and close.
Right.
Open does exist as an attribute, but I can't show you an open, right?
Mm-hmm.
The laws of logic work like that, okay? They apply to stuff as attributes, presumably of everything or nothing or whatever you want to put at their disposal. The laws of logic are the attributes of all things, right?
Okay. How would you go about proving that statement?
By picking up things and saying, this iPad is an iPad, not a coffee mug. It is not an iPad, right? So I'm demonstrating how that works. I'm telling somebody it is what it is, it's not what it's not, and it either is or it isn't, right?
Right, and you're using, and I don't have a problem with using reason. I think it just has to be put in the correct light. But I asked you, how do you prove the laws of logic?
Seth,
well, you just restated them.
I want to get back to something you said a minute ago. You keep talking about what kind of standards you should have for assessing things as true. Have you got any? Do you have
any standards?
Do you have standards, or do you just believe what you want to believe?
I do my best to only believe what's true. The standards.
Okay, and what are your standards for assessing things as true?
One of the things, I do adhere to the laws of logic. One of the things that I also adhere to is I adhere to everything that the Bible says. Okay, so
so you have some standards that I just don't accept. How are we going to get around that?
Well, going back to what Tracy was just saying, one of the problems I have with atheist worldviews is at least the ones that I've encountered, what they end up doing is they slit their own throat. When they try to argue against Christianity, they end up arguing in such a way that you might say that they cut off the branch that they're sitting on. She said, well, you can't see spirits, so how do I know that they're true? You can't see, again, I pointed out, you can't see the laws of logic. She said, well, they're attributes. And I asked, okay, well, how do you know that? How do you know, using just your own mind?
I gave you a demonstration. I can demonstrate them the same way I can demonstrate open and closed, right?
Okay, so you justify the laws of logic empirically then?
They apply to what is and what is not. I don't know.
So they apply to everything.
That's the idea.
Look,
okay,
Seth,
I agree that that's true.
Seth,
do you think you need to justify your belief that everything in the Bible is true?
Do you feel any need to do that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how do you justify it?
Going back to something, and I believe I said this the last time I called in and talked with you, Russell. Essentially, now, this goes back to something that Linnea said. If you want to, when it comes to worldviews and justification for truth,
this is beside the point. How do you justify that everything in the Bible is true? Because you just said you start from that point. So do you or don't you think that it needs to be justified?
Well, do you think the laws of logic need to be justified?
Not necessarily.
Why not? Isn't that circular? Isn't that authoritarian?
Do you think the laws of logic are true?
Yes, I do.
Then we agree. So what's the point of arguing this out?
No. We don't agree because we don't agree on the nature of the laws of logic. We don't agree that the laws of
logic are true?
No, we agree that they're true, but we don't agree on the nature of the laws of logic.
Okay, so what's the point of arguing about them? Do you think
Because
that something? Do you
what I'm
think
trying
that
to-
there
here's
are
the
some?
thing that I would
Do
point
you
out.
think that there are some things that don't require justification? Do you have axioms?
Well, I wouldn't call them axioms in like the sense of the like geometrical axioms. I think there are principles that are necessary to interpret the universe. I think it'd be necessary to assume the validity of the laws of logic everywhere at all times. Assume the validity, generally speaking, of your own
Okay,
sense perception and
then
things
we
of that
agree
nature.
about that. Now, how do we
Okay.
get from that to the assumption that God exists?
The way I would do it is you guys say that you agree, you adhere to the laws of logic, but you continue to say that you believe in a universe, which I don't think, you say you live in a certain kind of universe, and in the universe you are describing, I don't think the laws of logic could exist.
Okay, I don't agree. Prove
When
it.
did I describe a universe?
Well, you said that, you know, I asked you for a justification of the laws of logic. You said, well, you justify them empirically.
They apply to everything I've ever known. That's the best I can do. I mean, I don't know of any exceptions.
Do you know that they apply to everything, though?
I don't know that. It seems intuitively correct. I don't know how it would be tested, but at the same time, they do apply to everything I have ever experienced and everything I think anybody has ever presented, any concepts. I mean, there's nothing that I know of that they don't apply to, which does not mean that that's universal outside of, you know, that there could be things we don't know that somehow, I don't know how it would work otherwise, but if there were some way that it could, then there would be some way that it could. What I'm saying, though, is that in the universe I live in, every single thing I've ever encountered, it demonstrates the laws of logic. And that is as much as I say about it. So I'm curious about this universe that I'm describing that violates something or that is inconsistent in some way. Like, what is the inconsistency in my universe?
Well, I might use an analogy. If you're standing on a diving board and looking out...
Okay, we don't have time to start another
sorry, I
analogy.
shouldn't have
I
probably
said I'd
started
hold you
another.
to 10 minutes.
Okay,
and
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, bye.
Well, thank you for the discussion. Is
Thank
it
you.
cool if I call back next week?
If there's a different idea.
There's still going to be the same time
Or
limit.
continue the idea. I don't know. I
See ya.
can't really just say that. I'm not the host, so that's not my call.
All right. Presuppositional apologetics are always going to go like this. They're just a bloody-mindedness about going around and around about what words mean. I've been there. Anyway, Dale in Knoxville, Tennessee.
How you doing, Russell? I'm a
good.
second-time caller, too, but I'd
Okay.
like to say that I now believe in time travel, or at
Oh.
least time dilation, because the last 10 minutes that I've experienced has expanded twice that.
Actually, that was like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a trick.
Anyway, Russell, I talked to you before, and I said that I was a deist, and I was concerned with what I appeared to be animosity from the atheists toward the deists.
Okay.
And I'm just wanting to ask why.
Well, it depends on what you're perceiving. First of all, I would want to know what are you calling animosity, and second of all, if you do experience animosity from some people, why does it concern you?
Why would it concern me?
Yeah, I mean, are these people that have authority over you in some way, or that could impact your life, like they structure your salary, or?
Oh, no.
Okay,
no,
so if they don't like
that.
if they don't like something about what you believe, it actually has zero impact on you, right? I mean,
It actually has a little bit, except maybe hurting my feelings.
okay, so but if that would be self-inflicted, right? I mean,
Would it be?
I think so, right? Because you
Well, I don't
you
know.
could blow it off if you wanted to, right?
Oh, I could do that.
Okay, so it's
But
a choice,
maybe I'm holding on to it like a hurt that I'd like to nurse.
All right, so then what
But
is the animosity that you perceive?
Well, when I was on the show before, and I did briefly mention atheism, Russell was he was so nice that the people on the After Dinner show said that he was being much too easy on me. The after whatever show.
They do tend to hit me with that.
Yeah.
He's a big softy.
You're such a sweetheart. But anyway, one of the people that were responding about my short little thing there was, let me just quote this as 2 lines from a much longer one. I can say that everyone who supports their irrational views as, okay, quotation mark, is promoting shite, and I believe that is the more feminine term for the common vulgarity,
I think it's
and
the
doing
more
a
British
disservice
term.
to society, and blast the deist, and Westboro Baptist, I guess that's God hates fags people,
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
together in one fell swoop. Now, does that sound a little aggressive?
Wait, who issued this statement?
Who issued that statement? Russell? She's
No, are
sitting
you
right
talking
next
about
to you.
blog commenters?
Russell
or-
said this?
No,
didn't say
you
Shay.
did.
Wait, I said this?
Yes, you did.
That they go together with Westboro. When did I say this?
It's April 17th, I believe it was, when I called in. And you were participating
Okay.
on the texting thing off to the side.
Okay.
And you had a much longer statement here.
What was my
No,
username?
woo. You also mentioned
Woo sounds like me, yeah.
So,
All right, well, let me just say then, when it comes, okay, there's two ways to look at this, so let me just sort of clarify something.
okay. You're going to clarify putting us in the Westboro
Yes.
Baptist
Yes.
category.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I assume, woo does sound like me.
Oh, this
I
is
don't
gonna be
remember the
worth it.
specific statement, but that's okay. I don't remember a lot of things. I say a lot of stuff.
I'll be happy to send you a copy of it
No,
or the
no, it's
address.
fine. I'm gonna, let's just say this is me.
Okay.
There is, people sometimes ask us, do we consider religions to have any kind of a hierarchy as far as problems that they cause the world? And we will say yes. Yes, when you're going to break it down to harm caused by, to the world, you're probably going to have like a ranking where some of them harm the world in a really big way and some of them harm the world in less of a way.
Yeah, although in
Okay, I'm
Wait.
seeing Westboro
Just
Baptist
like to
Church and I'm
mention-
seeing deists. Now make
in
the
that
connection for
ranking,
me.
in that ranking, I would put fundamentalist Christians more with fundamentalist Muslims than
Right,
with
right.
liberal
Well, as
Christians.
Tracy
but
points
here's
out,
the
that I
thing.
don't care about that.
There are other ways, though, in which they are all on a level field.
Okay.
So in other words, like for example, somebody might say that, I guess there's like a trigger warning for sexual assault here. Somebody might say that raping a person is worse than punching them, okay? Like punching somebody once is not as bad as a rape as far as harm that's caused. But it is true that both violations are in the same category as far as they are bodily physical boundary breaches of a violation where you did the same thing but to a greater degree.
Well, I don't know where you're going with this, but I can quote something else you said.
Go ahead. Where I'm going with it is that there are commonalities to some things, even though
So
some
you would say atheists and deists have a commonality.
No, I would say that deists and Westboro Baptists have a commonality.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm saying that
Are y'all doing a cult or something? It sounds like it's your way or the highway.
No, I didn't. Where did I say that? You can be a deist. You can join Westboro. I don't care. Do what you want to do. I can't stop you, right?
Okay.
That's my point. What I'm saying, though, is if somebody's talking about do these both promote woo, my answer is yes. If they ask me, are they both promoting unreasonable beliefs? Are they both fostering unreasonable beliefs? My answer is yes. If somebody wants me to say, does one do more harm to society than the other? I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
So on one level, it is the same thing happening. They do
You're saying
promote the
atheists
same-
do no harm to society?
When
There's
did I say that?
some ladder up from deists?
When did I say? Why you keep saying I mean, there's some
No,
things
you're
that
saying
I'm
there are
fine with.
degrees, and you're saying
Yes.
that Westboro Baptist Church and the deists need to be in the same category. I'm just wondering
If
where
you're
you're putting the
talking
atheists.
If you're talking about promoting woo, then yes, the deistic view is woo, and yes, Westboro is woo. If you're talking about, if you're asking me, do I think that all woo causes the same level of harm to society? My answer is no.
So when you used an enemy of the state or whatever it was you said
Okay,
there.
that part doesn't quite sound like me.
Oh, no. I'm trying to read it from across the room.
Okay.
And I must say I am, my eyes are not good, but something, oh yes, if they espouse an unreasonable position publicly, it should not be, it might not be, you did put the not in there, be the thing that someone sees as the number one enemy of society.
Okay, yeah, okay, so espousing a view
All right, so
that's
let me see
unreasonable
if I
might
can...
not be the
let me-
worst thing.
Let me see if we can part friends here. Now, as an
Why?
atheist... Well,
Why do you care if we're friends?
you know, probably when I hang up, I'm not going to.
Well, it doesn't.
But
I don't
since
see why
I'm
you care
talking
now.
to you, I'd at least like to be polite and civil.
I don't mind being polite and civil. I'm just curious about why you would care if somebody thinks
Well,
badly of
let's-
what you believe.
Well, that goes off in another tangent. I've got that
Yeah, it
10-minute
does.
time
It's
limit.
weird. This is a weird thing.
Well, is there any reason, is there anything different that a deist would do in his life as opposed to an atheist?
I don't know. Other than promoting woo, no. Maybe not. I don't know who. It would depend on the deist and the atheist.
So the atheist says, I see no reason to personally believe in a God, right? Or is that the popular one?
I think that's probably fair.
Okay. And obviously, your reasoning is what you're going to go with, but someone else might have an alternate sort of reasoning, and
you have alternate
they're
reasoning.
worthless?
Wait, you've got alternate reasoning. What kind of reasoning do you use? What reasoning? Like you don't use logic? Or
I see your point. That was a poor choice of words.
Okay, fair enough.
For someone who might see evidence of God in nature, which is what deists do.
Can you show me that?
Can I show you evidence of God in nature?
Please.
I can see order, things like that, and to me, that means that there's some sort of combining force, maybe even the Force like in Star Wars. But it is not something you pray to, and not something you kill people for not believing. And with the sort of naturalism that's going around, I should think we'd be friends. But when I get, this was not the only letter on your website. So, and I just get very confused.
Which website is this? I'm wondering where I'm posting this.
You were making comments on that, is it called After Dinner Show?
Oh, yeah, the After Dinner page. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And I wonder what those comments were in response to, but yeah, go ahead. I was probably commenting on another show I was watching. Is that correct?
No.
I was on the show and commenting on the dinner page at the same time?
No, you were off the show, but you were commenting by tweeting or whatever.
I was posting comments on the page. Yeah, but I was viewing the show, posting comments on the page, like responding to
and
particular comments that were coming up during the calls.
Yeah.
I would really love to see more context to this thing, but I'm taking it,
we
on the
don't want to
chin
take
on
up
this
too
one.
much time.
Yeah, and I am taking it on the chin by just saying, okay, let's just take it at face value here without the context of it. But I do respond to other people's comments on those threads, and there's probably more people posting in that comment thread than just me that I'm interacting with, and we are probably having a dialogue, is my guess, because that's how those call threads go. But I just want to make that clear, that, and I'm happy to clarify, and I'm happy to say publicly, more publicly than on that page, that yes, there are differences in the level of harm depending on the woo that is being promoted. Some woo
I'd still shred it based on it being unreasonable.
It is unreasonable. Yes, based on it being unreasonable, not based on it doing tons of harm to society.
Well,
do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't. But
you don't see a difference between saying I would shred it on its unreasonable nature, but I would that can be different than saying that it's killing people.
Okay.
You don't see a difference in those statements.
Not really.
Okay.
I'm not really paying that much attention. So to be honest with you,
guys, I feel like I have to separate you two.
You're the host.
Well, let me say one little plug here. I used to work in psychiatry in the military. When I came out, one of the things we did not talk about in the military was religion. And Tracy is right. Even some of the
you're watching a show which is primarily dedicated to talking about the influence of religion on society. And if you don't want to hear that kind of talk, then you shouldn't watch.
And religion on society, that's not us.
Yeah, deists aren't necessarily religious. I would agree with that. You're just theistic. It's not really religious. And yeah, and I would agree. And so yeah, you do less damage than a lot of other people.
Less damage.
And I'm happy to do. Well, I mean, promoting unreasonable beliefs is not what I consider harmless. There are things that are more harmful, and I am very happy to make that public statement. And if it helps to hear me delineate that and say, no, deists do not cause as much public harm as Westboro Baptist Church, I am happy to say that. I will acknowledge that publicly right now.
Okay.
But are they both unreasonable? Yes. And is being unreasonable and promoting being unreasonable harmful? Yeah.
So anybody who believes in a God is unreasonable. I get that. And even if it's a God that does not participate, nor answer prayers, nor do anything supernatural, but further and further beyond what man's understanding of the universe is, Who knows? Maybe some alien in another dimension
It's the base belief that makes
filled
that
his
reasonable. The rest of it is
experiment,
also
caused the Big
reasonable.
Bang.
I'm just gonna come back to the same thing we always say, which is you shouldn't believe stuff with it. I mean, the time to believe stuff is when you have evidence that it's probably true. But I'm gonna have to move on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. See ya. Thanks for calling. Robert in Ohio.
This is me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I really want to be on the show for a while.
Well,
I don't know
here
about a
you are.
while. We've got a fairly short time
He said he's
left.
wanted to be
but
on for a
what's on
while.
your mind? Oh, you have. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Go for it. Tell us your
Okay.
issue.
Okay, cool. You see, I have a friend. I feel like he might be on the fence about whether he's an atheist or a theist, but he seems to have a few fears about actually leaving theism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a Christian, and he thinks that if he leaves this, he won't have any moral code, and he should just take and go around and do whatever he wants, like doing drugs and raping people and stuff.
Does he
So-
want to do that?
I don't think so.
Does he think he'll immediately start wanting to do that as soon as he gives up his belief in God?
The way he describes it, yeah.
Really? Does he strike you as the kind of person who wants to go do drugs and stuff?
No, really.
Maybe he should have a little more faith in himself.
Sorry?
Maybe he should have a little more faith in himself.
Oh, okay. Well, I was wanting to ask about, how I should approach him about it. Because I don't want to take and, say anything that, would seriously offend him and harm our
Well,
relationship.
here, let me ask. Okay, so clearly you're an atheist, right?
Yes.
Okay, and he's telling you that if he gives up his belief in God, he's going to, just go mad dog.
Yes.
Okay, and I would guess it would be fair to approach him and say, I don't believe in God, and I just don't even understand
That's a
why
good
you would
point.
do these things. Can you explain to me what would be your impetus to do them, since I don't believe in God and I don't have any impetus to do them?
Yeah, ask him what's appealing about it, too.
Yeah, why would you go take the energy to go hurt people? Why would that suddenly become your goal?
Right, and also ask him why he thinks so little of you that he thinks you should be doing those things. Because that might personalize it a little.
Or maybe ask him why he thinks you don't do those things. Or if he thinks you do and you just hide it really well.
Oh, wow. I never really thought of it that way.
I would just be like, why do you think you would do that? That's really strange. I don't see you as the person that would rape and do drugs and stuff, but you seem to think you would. Do you have these impulses that you only don't do it because God tells you not to? I'd be curious why he would think he would just go all crazy like that.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
There are a lot of other reasons not to do stuff like that. There's not wanting to hurt other people.
Yeah.
You don't have to have God telling you that when people get hurt, it's sad. And there's, I'd like to not go to jail if we're talking about doing something illegal. The earthly punishment you get may not be as scary as the potential divine punishment that religions have come up with, but they're still demonstrably real. You can actually show him people in jail. So there are plenty of other reasons to stay nice.
Okay. Oh, okay, well, thank you. I won't take and waste more of your time so you can get more time.
All right, well,
Thanks,
you.
and good luck with him. Let us know how it turns out.
Okay, thank you. All right, bye.
All right.
Who's that?
Josh in Atlanta. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay, Josh in Atlanta. What's up?
Got
Yeah,
it. We
can you
got
hear me all right?
Yeah, you sound
Did you
great.
hear that
Oh, hey.
first call?
Great.
Because I think we may have covered some of the ground you're about to
Yeah,
ask about.
I was thinking that when I heard you guys talking.
But go
I'll
for
try
it.
to go through a little more concisely, a little more clear than the last caller.
Right.
So, it's about logical absolutes, if they exist or don't exist, and if you're justified in saying one way or another. There's objects and there's concepts. Your iPad's an object. Open is a concept. They both exist, but they're different. So when it comes down to logical absolutes, I really see it in there's only three options. You can tell me if there's more, what you guys think about it. It seems that There are logical absolutes, and we create a third category that holds these, and it's neither an object or a concept. That's what Matt Dillahunty's position is from what I've seen in his debates and videos. The second option is you can say they do exist, logical absolutes exist, but they're concepts of mind, so you're not creating the third category. And people like Matt Slick say that mind is God, blah, blah, blah. Or the third one, which is kind of where I hold now because it's kind of uncommitting, and I don't know. You say, I don't know one way or another, but you make the provisional assumption that they do exist, and it's useful because it is useful, and so far accurate everywhere, everything I apply it to, it works and it's consistent. So I assume them until I get inaccurate results, and then I have a reason to doubt my tentative assumptions, and then I retract my assumption.
Right.
So that's kind of where I stand. But
what I was saying earlier was that, at some point it does come down to assumptions. Atheists and theists both agree that logic exists, and so it seems kind of pointless to quibble over whether that's true or not. But theists introduce this additional, completely extraneous point, saying, well, your logic depends on the existence of my God, and that's just not something that we need to accept.
Yeah, it's common ground across atheists or theists. I'm an atheist personally.
Right.
So, we all agree upon logic, but people are trying to find faith. The whole point of epistemology is to talk about this and figure it out. And so I agree with Matt on just about Dillahunty, about almost everything he says. But this is him holding to there being logical absolutes and him choosing this, the first category, that there's just this third category here that exists, and it's not an object and it's not a concept. And he doesn't seem to be able to support that, and I don't really get why he chooses to push that forward and then describe things from there and not just fall into the third category, which is, well, it's a provisional assumption and it's useful and it's accurate to everything I apply it to thus far, so I'll just keep using it until I find some inaccurate results and I have a reason to deny it. And just why put forward a positive claim when it's not necessary?
I don't know. Matt's not here, unfortunately.
Yeah, you'll have to ask him.
Yeah, no, he's supposed to be on the call today, so I was thinking I was going to talk to him. But I just want to see what you guys think about it, or where you kind of fall, or where there's justification therein.
I think I pretty much gave my view on it earlier.
Yeah.
I think presuppositional apologetics demands that there are just two categories, physical and conceptual, and even they don't actually agree with that if you follow their argument all the way through. So I don't see any reason to accept that as a dichotomy. That's all I think we're saying.
That's why I kind of have the third category there where I kind of fall. But the whole, I kind of just struggle with this whole topic in general because it seems like it requires you to use circular reasoning because you're using a logic, a human-based system of comparing objects and concepts together to then determine if there's logical absolutes. So you're creating an absolute using logic from it's circular. I mean, to use logic to justify logic.
Well, it's circular to use God to justify God.
Of course, and that's why I reject the first two positions.
If nothing
and I fall
else,
into the third.
then maybe this is just either an unanswered question or a question that's not really defined well enough to have an answer that makes,
could be.
that is satisfying. But we are about to be out of time.
But we can do some after show, right?
Yeah, we
So
can
hang
take
on
a
if
couple
you're
of
still on the
calls
calls.
after.
Yeah, still hold
But
if you
thanks for
wanna talk.
calling. And
thanks for your time.
Sure enough, there's our credits.
Thank you to these people.
And thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody who sat in and everybody who watched on the internet. Thank you, Tracy, for a lively show.
And thank you, Russell, for...
Goodbye, everyone. See you next week. Okay.
Okay, so who's up?
Is this, would be